class, it evolves because life evolves. And so when I first started teaching this class, we made like real material boards. Have you guys seen those maybe? And it's like a board and you put cushion in and you stuff pillows. And the first, am I telling the truth? One of the first jobs I had after, actually this is before I graduated from Cal State Long Beach, was at a hospitality design firm where they did hotels. And so before the hotel got a renovation or when we presented, we would make these boards. And like, I don't know if you know, sometimes when you go to IKEA and they have like a section roped off that says in progress. So when hotels did that, then they would put the board there so you would kind of see what it looked like. So it's kind of a marketing thing. So we used to have to make these physical boards and it was very labor intensive. So it doesn't really happen anymore. Now what happens is you go to see a client and you have all these fabrics and you're like, I think all of these are beautiful and perfect. What do you think? And they go, I don't like that one. I don't like that one. And so you have three choices and then hopefully somehow it makes your client happy. So what you have is a box. And so hopefully you did your box nice and tidy. So I would write your name on the back. And so you don't even have to take this home if you don't want to lug it back and forth. I'll make a shelf for you in the cabinet. You can keep them in there. But every time, almost every other project we have now, you'll actually be putting together a box. So you'll have your materials, and before class, or I'll give you a few minutes during class, you'll come, you'll grab your box and you'll lay your materials out, take a picture, print it, and put it on the top of your binder. But how boxes get laid out is exactly how you would basically look at a room. So again, I keep changing this. This person like pinned all theirs down. So you don't have to necessarily do that. But at the top of the room, or like the biggest backdrop, is usually the wall finish, right? So if you can, you have big samples of your wall finish. So I was trying to do this so you could see it. The wall finish would be at the top. So however you choose to lay it out. If it were me, like these are a little crumpled, I would get rid of the crumpled pieces and the pieces that are torn to make it look beautiful and presentable, and then put those little extra scraps in your sleeve and your stuff, right? So, but also think about proportion when you're putting together your board. Like in this room, what do I see the most of? The walls and the counters, probably the floor, right? So the bigger your paint samples or your paper samples can be, the better. But like she cut this off here, which I'm cool with, but then I probably would cut it straight. And if I was at home, I might iron it to get the wrinkles out. But I'm laying those out as big as they can be, right? And then let's see, floor samples, like her floor sample is not that big. And it's okay, because sometimes it's just not gonna happen. But the floor sample then goes at the bottom, because I see the walls on top, the floor is on the bottom. So logically, where does it happen? And then this is a chair, and I have a pretty nice big sample. So I'm gonna fold it over, and I'm gonna do my best to not have any of the edges show. So we're gonna see how I can fold it so that it's beautiful. And sometimes it works, sometimes that one it doesn't really want to fold because of the cardboard. So maybe that happens here and it covers up those holes in the paint. This is a pillow, and she knows where all this goes. I don't know. So if this was on let's say this was one of the sofas, but this is just a pillow on the sofa. Again, think about the proportion. Like this one's going to be bigger, this one's going to be smaller. So you're going to fold them nice and tidy so that one is relating to the other.
Are we allowed to pin them down?
If you want to pin them down, you can. So you can grab pins. Just know it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be permanent. This is a pillow. So again, it should be kind of small. So you may have to take your tags off, but anything you take off, you need to put in your binder. And so again, we have an advisory board every year. And so I always want to do my best to keep current with what I'm teaching you, because if they don't do this, I don't want to torture you, right? Like this is what I did. Like this was one of my favorite parts actually. which is why I like teaching this class. I love putting together a spec book. And so one of my students, that this is her last, she's taking her last few classes, but she's already working. She was like, I really wonder why we were doing that spec book. It didn't make any sense. Like, why are we doing this in materials? She's like, yeah, they do spec books for everything, right? Because then you have your book and you tuck that away, because hopefully your client is going to need a refresh in 4 or 5 years. And so you have your book with all the information, and everything that you need is in there, the spec, all the finishes. So all of this really does still happen. So you're going to think about how your board goes together. Like, this might be a sofa with a pillow. This might be a chair that's off to one side. So you're kind of laying it out in a way that makes sense. And then your drapery fabric, your sheer, if you have enough. And what I don't want you to do is pleat it like it's trying to be a curtain. But if you can find a really big drapery sheer, or if you can't, you can kind of do something like this. But it kind of wants to, you kind of want to look at the fabric the way that you're going to see it. So again, if I was at home, hopefully I'd have a bigger sample, so it kind of like flowed all the way through like a curtain hanging down. And then I might take a copper wire and wrap it, right, to make it look pretty. And then maybe it happens like if this is the sofa that's happening in front of the drapery, maybe I put it here, right? So that's the goal. So I don't want to see any of the white behind the fabrics. I want all the fabrics to be laid and in an order that makes sense, right? So wall finishes on top, floor finishes on the bottom, everything else in the middle, and then you kind of relate pillows to sofas, and then you look at it, house it in the room, like if this is left to right or whatever the case may be. Make sense? So I'll let you guys lay that out. And I did say label it ideally. So again, in the real world, like if this is your spec, you would label it the CH1 or whatever. Actually not on a piece of paper, but on the thing, so it doesn't get mistaken. And then when you are with your clients, there'd be a little CH1 here, but we didn't do that, and it's okay. We'll do it next week. So it'll just be like this, and then you're gonna take a picture of it, because ultimately you're gonna dismantle it, right? So I need to see that you did it, and then the picture you can print and put in your binder for the cover page. Yeah? And then when you're done, you can take all these fabrics, put them in a Ziploc bag, and then just put this in there, put the whole thing in there, whatever you wanna do. Okay, questions about this? So that should be quick. That's the reason why we do it like this instead of all the stuffing. So I'll give you 5 minutes. Let's go. And then we're gonna come look at them and see whose is the most beautiful.